Welcome to this video. Thanks so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness and the highest levels of love light. I just wanted to go into a flow. I tend to channel words that have deeper meanings. I call it the sound behind the sound. So I'm just going to invite you to tune in and see what messages the guides have to share for today. And some of this is meant to be felt, not necessarily understood on a linear basis. And so there is much that is coming up around us to be dispelled, if you will, to be dispatched, to be claimed as I'm seeing put the stakes in, like homesteading, or a lot is at stake. And we're going to play with this a little bit because this is a warm-up. This is a warm-up in wordplay. And the reason we play with the words so much is because there is much to be learned about our language. There are many facets yet to be spoken. There are many spokes in the wheel, on the wheel, in which we have access to that we have yet to understand fully. And the more we can understand this framework, or this dimensional representation of energy through sound, through vocalization, through the vocal cords, through the harmonics, through the chords that are attached through the quantum structure of all things, we begin to understand that all things can unwind and open to more than the mind. Or better spoken, we can tune into and tap into the mind beyond the mind. The mine shaft, if you will, the rod and the staff, the beyond the linear presentation of mind. And many of us are already doing this. We already hold a communication, an exchange verbally with our higher self, if you will, or our friends in the ethers, or our friend, the ether. For we play with this because there is so much that we can tune into through this type of wordplay. So anyone listening will hear something that is potentially relevant for them, and it will be completely irrelevant for someone else, yet another word will harness or activate a particular memory or realization in their own tune, their own structure, in which they tune into and pick up on, if you will. I'm seeing a band and like I'm seeing a banjo. Let me play with this, the light is. I'm seeing a band that is you pick up an instrument and you start a jam session, essentially. There we go. One of these days I'll get my lighting right. I tend to look like an Oompa Loompa on here. My library is set up where it's all dark and it's light behind me. So sometimes my lighting goes in and out. Not that it really matters, but one of the things I wanted to share about this language and the way in which I'm communicating is that's part of what I came here to do. That's part of my piece of the puzzle, if you will. So I do it in this way. I don't always communicate in this way. If you guys have watched these videos before, I will sometimes give a very linear presentation of what's going on energetically. And maybe we'll get to that in a minute, but I'm going to keep going on this flow and kind of see where this leads us to. And this is the point. To be in this flow, we are giving you an ability to access multiple points of reference, or referential points, reference points that allow us to point in, out, and in all directions. And you are the one that is opening to which chord you would like to tune into, that which you would like to play with, if you will. And so it opens up a discourse that allows for more to be accessed, to be understood, to be available to access, and accessed. These axis points allow for a chemical nurturing, if you will, a word bank that is open to fluctuation. And let us play with this for a moment. For within this analytical analyzation of words, this analytical reference of words, we reference many different points. And this is what the point is. The point is to find that singular spin of rotation within the word definition. And we'll play with that for a moment too. For none of these words can truly be defined on a linear framework, because words are a representation of the quantum structure in which we are accessing at all times. And the verbiage that we use, that we share in this discourse, allows us to chart a course, if you will, to the territory that we are each exploring. And so English is a territory, we might say. English has a certain harmonic way of accessing certain words, but beyond English are the letters themselves, and beyond the letters are different fonts of the particular language variations that we are using in which to stabilize our communication patterns. All right, so I'm really being called to remind everybody to check out Dan Winter's online for can't remember his website, Fractal Field. It's been a while since I've looked up his things. I'm probably overdue because I'm sure he has some new cool things to share, but he has some really great videos on language. In fact, I'm being called just to show you, so I will. Okay, here's the juice. So I'm going to share screen, and I am on goldenmean.info/PowerPoint/index2. So I went to Phase this is a Dan Winter, and I don't know why I haven't shown this sooner, but here we go. So this right here is, and I'm on this slide, a zoom, each letter, infinite fractal recursive map to compression, excuse me. So self-organizing spiral of a donut, the letters on an alphabet. I hope this is going to take me into the letters so you guys can see them. Here we go. So oftentimes my guides, I didn't know who Dan Winters was, and one of you guys reached out to me, and I'm sorry I can't remember who it was, and this was, what, 4 or 5 years ago, said, hey, have you ever listened to Dan Winters, because that's what you're talking about? And I was like, no, I don't know who that is. Well, I had seen a video of his years before, but I lost it. Like, I didn't know who he was. And so I never watched it fully, and I thought there's something to what he's saying. And then when I went back and I looked at his work, I'm like, oh, this is what I'm talking about. So all of these spins, I encourage you to check it out on your own, is language, essentially. And they're on a donut. It's energy, it's letters. This is where our letters come from. And so here's the letters, right? And if you guys have ever seen somebody write light language, or think of hieroglyphics. Now, hieroglyphics are a little different in the sense they represent pictures. You know, they'll draw a picture of a bird or something. But this is the spin in the toroidal field, and this is the energy of the letters in written format. And we could play with this in deep, in a much deeper or broader video sometime if you'd like. And I mean, it might be kind of fun. I'm thinking of this as I go. I'm in real time, guys. It's just fascinating. So I'm sharing this because this is what I'm doing in a poetic format. And so I don't even know fully how much and how expansive this could be, but it's energy. And I'll go into maybe some more information with the guides, and we'll see kind of what comes through. And when I do that, I'm just dropping into, it's like I'm putting aside just my left brain analytical thinking. I tune in by combining my brain frequencies and harmonics into more of a, I don't know, alpha or theta state. And that brings me into a relaxed space so I can just then hear, see, and feel where I'm kind of being taken on this journey with words. And that's what I came here to kind of play with and do. Now, yes, I also can tune in, I do readings, I do energy readings and intuitive readings for people, and I can tune into loved ones that are in the other realms. And that's not really separate from this, is kind of what my guides are always saying. It's all connected. So, but for this particular video, we're just going to tune into more of the language. And so as we allow ourselves accessing, play on words, all of that, to these different components or harmonics or points on the grid, if you will, and I'm just thinking, reference that last picture that I showed you, this is what the guides have been saying, we are then able to unfold as a harmonic receptor. We are able to become the receptacle and the receptor. I'm hearing inception point, and I'm hearing scepter of the grand schematic of where language comes from. And when we tune into the font, the signature, the variations of language, we can merge with it, so to speak, in a different space, in a different point in time, in a different part or place of the universal exchange that is beyond time, yet is accessible in this way through time. For English has not always been so, yet the energy behind the lattice work or framework of what English is based off of has always been from one perspective. So we are unfolding, if you will, in a triangulation of pattern recognition when we tune into language, fonts, sets, subsets, categories, categorization, putting this into a completely different categorization of harmonics. It allows us to tune into the deeper resonance or the imprints or the leftover resonation, play on words. I'm seeing a lot there. That allows us to play with this font signature technology in a new variety of ways. Now, while everyone can do this, there are certain of you out there who can access this with ease. And we are speaking to you in this now moment, for we need more of you to learn the underscore, to feel into the energy that is available at our fingertips, fingerprint, so to speak, that allows us to hone in into a broader view of the concepts of language and communication. And this allows us to broaden our view of the concepts of communication and what it really means to be able to access this, what it really means to be able to communicate in this way. From another perspective, some will play with the mathematical design behind the harmonics of the universe, and that is their gift to the world. That is their ability to see and play with and interweave and intermingle, if you will, with these different subsets. And when I say subsets, I'm just seeing bubbles within bubbles within bubbles. I'm going to pause for a moment. For this allows us to create a visual display. As I'm doing this, I'm seeing different things. Whew. Not only the visual display that was shown on that graph, for example, but we are speaking more of a visual display in the mind, in the brain, which is connected to the mind that moves through all things, where the jewels are located, one might say. I'm hearing, hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go. And this allows us to chemically exchange with energy in a slightly different verbiage. I'm being called to play with that for a moment and give it for instance. So I'm just going to go on etymology, of verbiage, and a word that asserts, well, this is a verb, a word that asserts or declares that part of speech of which the office is predication, and which either alone or with various modifiers. Okay, that's not where I'm going with this. Interesting, it's from Old French verb word, word of God, saying, part of speech that expresses action or being. So I know there's a deeper meaning here. I'm just not quite getting it, but that's okay. What I'll tell you that I do understand in this, and that's kind of the point, it helps when we play with words and the origination of the words. We go back to the birth of the word. We go back to pre-birth. We go back to the beginning, Genesis. We go back to, Genesis, hello. The word was, okay, let's play with that. Okay, so clearly this is the meaning of this. We're going back to the origination of this, and we're going back to, I'm hearing the square. Is there something with a dot in the square? Anyways, so if you go back to Genesis is the very beginning, but this is a play on words. Genesis is also the first book of the Bible, right? And in the first chapter of the Bible, it talks about the word became flesh, right? Or this is John 1 through 5, Genesis 1. The word became flesh. I'm on BibleGateway.com. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. So that's basically what's being referred to right now if we want to use a biblical comparison to playing with the beginning and word and where this all came from. I always like to refer to the sound behind the sound. It's like there's this energy behind it. And when you tune into the wordplay, you can actually tune into the energy behind the language. The language is the communication style. There's so much that we can play with to expand our understanding of verbs. And I'm also being told to play with that because it's action. It's actually action. I'm hearing it's actually action at a distance. So it's actually action, spooky, action at a distance. It's all of a sudden we're tuning into the quantum field of language. And I'm hearing just linguistic patterning and the patterns behind how it is that we form the words and where they come from. And while this may be confusing to some, there are some that will understand this with fluency. They will understand the patterns that are being expressed through this language diversity. They will understand in an innate way, if you will, in an infinite way of expression, a wave of expression that can be felt through the harmonics that are being layered one on top of another or woven, interwoven with each other. And so we in ourselves, and this is a play on words back to the word made flesh, are a walking dictionary. We are a walking dictation of life that has been birthed, and we activate our fuller potentials by speaking our words into more creation through birthing our manifestation. And while that sounds backwards, we are playing with this. We are manifesting in the physical realm that which is quantum, that which has been yet to be, play on words, that which has been yet to be in form is now being informed of what it is to become. We are the creators of that which is being formed through our words. And all of this that has just been spoken can also be taken into a myriad of different lines of thought, we could say, or lines of construction, or deconstructing some of the words to then line them up with a different or a variety of potential creations, perspectives of that which we are informing the listener in this representation of messages. And so we invite you not to get hung up too much on the word play. For those of you that are listening that understand this on a more multifunctional level, this will be for you in that way. But for others, it is just an introduction into vocabulary and the power of the human to perceive beyond the linearity of the words or the books or the, I'm hearing modalities of teaching, the methods that we have been taught, the styles of communication that we have been limited or compacted into. For we are now expanding beyond the old compact. So this is also playing words, because if something is compact, it can be full of stuff. You know, it's just like if you look at I'm hearing a microdot. Is that a thing? It's like a microdot. We'll say it's something that holds all this information compacted into one. It can be dense. But also, we can also look at it from the meaning of being compacted into something and feeling like we're stuck, right? We're being called to unravel that. And I'm seeing the ribbons on the DNA. And we then read out, we go from monochromatic, I'm hearing chromosomes, chromatic, kaleidoscope, like all of a sudden we read the packaging and we see things that we missed the first time around because we're reading it in a different way. Now, this is also an analogy, we'll say, or a comparison to just life in general and us changing our perspective on everything we thought we knew. And this is important because part of the bigger message that's coming through is to just let go, and meaning let go of what we thought we knew or we thought we were fully encased in, because we've been birthed into a different reality that holds different probabilities because our perspective is different. And I'm being shown, what are the experiments? This is kind of a long-standing thing, like my brain, poof. You know, if you're looking at something, it's either a particle or a wave, right? What's both? But it's really just a wave that we're perceiving as a particle. Anyways, that's a whole other ball of wax. And don't quote me on that, but I'm just being shown certain things. So it's, oh, and what I'm being shown is it's not that, it's actually us looking at an experiment. Okay, we'll come back to that later. Like when we look, when a scientist perceives and looks at an experiment, the experiment changes based on if someone's watching it or not. You guys know what I'm referring to? I can't remember the whole. Clearly science and mathematics was not necessarily, and I'm pretty sure my English teacher would be rolling over right now, like, what are you doing with this English language? Listen, I'm just spinning it all around and playing with those fonts in a very different way of how I perceive technology. And that's what we're all being invited to do, because we are the creators of this new universe. We are the ones that are speaking it into birth. We are the ones that are birthing these realities. So how we exchange this information is important, to let go of the formalities, to recognize that the formal initiation has already been, and the concepts and the packaging that those concepts were offered to us were merely a baseline that we have far out, I'm hearing raced, erased, outraced. We've outrun that particular story. And it is not that we are running away from it or running towards something. We are becoming more centered in the space that we hold. And this is also a play on words, for we are beginning to understand our relationship with space holds a different font, a different shape, a different texture. And as we begin to contemplate this new spin or variation of our reality structure, we begin to come together through all forms of information, whether it be wordplay, geometry, all mathematically written concepts, those things that we thought we understood, we now begin to realize new concepts have been birthed in order to fully understand that which we have yet to fully understand. Thanks a lot, guides. But this is part of our journey. This is part of our expression, our experience, and it is our birthright. For we are here birthing new angles, and through this right angle variation, we shift how it is we spin up our new reality. And I'm being called, if you go back to Dan Winter's work, he talks about the spin and the angles and the angels, right? And the energies. So, so they're talking about the spin on the words and the different angles that make up the signatures in the font that we then bring forward into our own, through our own, I'm hearing vesicle, vesica, vessel, voice box. Ooh, that's a play on words. And so it is time to exchange information at a faster pace, but take a step back, slow down, and recognize how it is that we are exchanging information, what it is that we are tuning into, and what information are we exchanging at a faster pace? Are we replicating the old? Are we churning out more replications and not the origination or the original? And so what is the original when we recognize the idea of what we thought was the original no longer holds the same value? So it is time to come together with these new concepts. It is time to come together, and I'm hearing reach out, and I'm seeing that picture from Michelangelo. Is it Michelangelo? With the, I gotta show it. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure where I stopped. I hit pause and I really can't remember where I hit pause. But so I'm going to repeat some of this. Apologies if that's the case, because I thought I hit unpause, but I didn't. So I'm going to share screen right now with the Sistine Chapel and Michelangelo representation that I was just being shown. And essentially what is just being shown is I'm tying it back in together with Genesis, right? So let's go back to what the guides were saying. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, right? So as I'm sharing this information with you, I'm seeing pictures, and I was seeing Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel. And so what I'm being shown is this is an example of tying together these messages in a cohesive way. And when we come together and we sync up our hearts and our brains, we are able to dip into this higher resonance that is the temple, that is the body, that allows us to shift our perspective on how we view reality. We're being called to come together and hold hands with one another, hold hands with the higher mind versus the hive mind. We do it through, I'm hearing radiation, radiating out this space. We're taking action, right? And we are working together in a network, but we're each doing it in our individual, well, we're all piece of the oneness that is the Word made flesh, that is the higher, whatever you want to call it, God, source, the spirit that moves through all things, energy, aether, all of it. All of that encompasses what our, I'm hearing connection points are connected to. That's my perspective. That's what my guides are sharing with me. So let me show you Michelangelo and why this was relevant. Okay, so I just pulled up Michelangelo, and I was called to show the brain because I remembered something in my memory of the brain and the painting of the Sistine Chapel. So this is BBVA Open Mind. I just pulled up all these photos, right? And here we have if you look at this, the the idea is that this picture in the Sistine Chapel is a replica of the brain, right? There's the medulla oblongata, there's the pituitary stalk, there's the optic, I always call it the optic chiasm, but I think it's chiasm. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. So there you go. So in the Sistine Chapel painting, if we just click on, this is another one. Well, I'm trying to get stuff that's a little bit more science-based and less like religion-based, but ooh, this is a good one. That's kind of fun, right? Look at that. Ooh, I like that. That is Kay's House of Art and Design. I mean, that is really cool. It's like a layover, right? It's been, yeah. So this is, but if you look at, and there's another good example. Ooh, that one's really good. So here we go. Brain of the Sistine Chapel, Michelangelo. I mean, this is what they're referring to. Okay. Not sure how I got off on that tangent, but let's go back in. And so it has been written, it has been recorded over and over and over again. Yet we must be reminded of what this means for us. For many of us have been tuning into a program, or we have programmed ourselves to tune into only one particular program, and we have stopped sharing material. We have been focused on the material realms, the material world, and gotten lost in our own creations. And now it is time to come back to the origination of our creations so that we can create the material realm based on the new original concepts that have been hidden, we could say, from us or from our view, because our view was veiled. And we will not get into this right now, but we are unveiling the new package, so to speak, because many of us are opening up these channels or points in the brain that are allowing us to stimulate the senses, and the perceptibility then opens. And so we must begin to perceive reality as an ever moving fluctuation and exchange of this information, and we are part of that. So we must find a common thread. And in this common unification, we begin to discover that which is beyond common, that is not common, yet we come to a common agreement of the beauty and wonder in all of our creations. And if we can continue to come back to this beauty and wonder, I'm just seeing the heart coherence in the brain and the toroidal spin from coherence, we create reality in such a way that it is vibrant, full of unification, full of expansion and diversity in and through this new field or flow, framework. I'm seeing a graph, a grid with bubbles, and like we're creating this crystalline template, not only within our own human structure, but within the structure of how it is that we are interacting with one another. For the energy that is around us is fluid. It is not solid. It is not what we tend to believe it is based on our concept. It is beyond what we think it is. And so we must tune into what we feel. We must tune into our own inner resource to understand the resources that are now available to us and fully accessible, always have been, but are much more available now because of our adaptations that we have now crystallized into. And that's a play on words. I'm hearing crystalline realized. And it's this very plasmatic type of interaction that is, so we end on this note. There will be many more notes that we would love to provide for those who are willing to play in this way. And we would invite you to play with your own creative talents and share them with others. For you are a resource and they are a resource. And the more we pool together and use our resources, the less we try to control how those resources are used, because we find in this, resources are infinite. It merely is a way, it's how we look at what's available to us. It's our perception is basically what I'm being shown. So I'm going to end on that note. In love and light, guys. Namaste. I will be doing a lot more videos of, I'm planning on doing a lot more of these videos, and I'm going to do some more basic learning videos as well that maybe some others might find helpful in addition to this. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you've made it this far, thank you, thank you. In love and light, thank you for sharing these videos. I'm hoping that this will reach more people who do what I do in their own way, so that they can kind of come out of the woodwork and go, oh, you know, I started sharing this channel originally because I thought, you know, I can't be the only one doing this. If you are channeling, seeing things, feeling things, tuning into things, it's all, you'll have your own way of playing with that energy that makes you feel really good. That's what we're being really called to hocus pocus, to hone in on, the magic, right? That's what's really helping us to build what we want to see in the world. Finding that inner magic and playing with it like a musical instrument. The more we practice, the more we play, the better we get, and the easier it is for us to let go of needing it to conform to a particular ideology or concept about how we should be playing. I'm just thinking of like acid jazz, which I don't really listen to acid jazz, but that's a really good example. Like, let's think about the different types of music that people are into for whatever reason, right? So we all have our individual part of this entire network of infinity from one perspective. So in love and light.